if you are a believer in the fact that it's not who you know, but who knows you, you have to be out there with good market presence to drive. You're still going to derive a big percentage of your business from your own proactive outreach.
Welcome to Outsource to Profit. I have a fantastic guest. Bob, do you mind telling the audience who you are, what you do, and how you serve the world?
Sure. My name is Bob Knakal. I am the chairman and CEO of BKREA, which is a real estate brokerage company located in Midtown Manhattan. I've been a broker here for 41 years, selling investment properties. For 26 of those years, I owned a company called Massey Knakal Realty Services, which we sold in 2014 to Cushman Wakefield for $100 million. And I absolutely love the business, been doing it my whole life, and continue to still feel as pumped up about going to work every day as I did my first day on the job. So I feel very blessed that I found something to do for a vocation that is not only my job, but is my hobby.
That is fantastic. And Cushman Wakefield used to be a competitor of mine. My very first sales job was actually at Cressa Partners in Toronto. And so I was on the tenant advisory side. And actually, that kind of frames up today's conversation. I always tell a story that I came to recognize very early. I was 25 years old, started at Cressa Partners, and I realized that not only was I competing against Cushman and Blakely, and there were so many different firms, but my office had 50 brokers. And in fact, the way it worked at Cressa is I was technically competing against the brokers in my own office for the mind share of a customer that I could log into Salesforce as holding that particular account and win a mandate and the whole bit. And I am amazed. I started my social media journey in 2010. 2011 is really where I started to see the powers of tools like LinkedIn. By 2013 or 14, I started getting comfortable with making videos. Now it's 10, depending on that timeline, 10, 12, 13 years later. And I meet founders every day that have no social presence. And I always think the headwind that is in their face, that they don't realize that in their own industry, they're not just competing against the natural competitor they have, but they're competing against mindshare. So all the optionality of where their customers could deploy capital isn't just you versus your one or two natural competitors. It's the whole adjacent market of the opportunity cost of capital deployment and the vast options that people have. So with that, Bob, can you and I were talking about this offline. You have a saying that you like to teach fellow founders around the power of being noticed. And then I'd love you to answer the question, why does that continue to hold back business owners in 2025?
Right. Well, Jamie, first of all, great to be with you today. And the phrase I always use when you talk about market presence is that the old adage that it's all about who you know is not right. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. And the reason maybe that's symptomatic of the fact that I work in New York City, which is one of the biggest markets in the world. But as a microcosm, if we look at the New York City investment sales market, there are 165,000 investment properties here owned by 250,000 investors. I make a lot of cold calls and a lot of prospecting calls every week, but I can't call 250,000 people. In many businesses, your potential client base could be infinite. It could be anybody in a local market, depending what industry you're in. So I think it's very, very important to have market presence. Now, what's market presence? Market presence is creating the ability for you to stay top of mind with your client base. And that's particularly important in my industry, in commercial real estate here, because using Manhattan as an example, south of 96th Street, which is the prime part of Manhattan, there's 27,649 buildings. Over the
That's
long term,
crazy.
over 40 years, the average turnover rate of that stock is only 2.6%. And if you figure that half the stuff that goes on the market actually trades, that means that only 1 out of 20 people want to transact. And that 2.6% turnover rate also is indicative of the fact that when someone buys a property in Manhattan, on average, they own it for 38 and a half years before they sell it. So people are not transacting all the time. So you have to stay top of mind with people. So how do you do that? Well, you make your calls, you send your email blasts, you send text blasts, you do good old fashioned hard mail, which I think is very, very underrated. But you also have to be active networking, creating content, public speaking, being out there so people know who you are. And social media is such a big way to reach a very, very large audience. So I became active on social media. You're fortunate that you got on board so long ago. I just got active on social media back in January of 23. And it's already starting to pay huge dividends. I'm able to connect dots directly with getting new business from people who have contacted me on social media. And so if you are a believer in the fact that it's not who you know, but who knows you, you have to be out there with good market presence to drive. You're still going to derive a big percentage of your business from your own proactive outreach, but you need to have people coming to you as well. And the more you're out there with market presence, the more likely it is that people are going to come to you. And that makes the sale so much easier because folks are already kind of pre-sold when they're coming to you rather than you going to them.
Now, and so you and I are a complete agreement that this is important. Backing up to that original question though, so you mentioned that you started in 23, maybe using your own experience. Were there legacy biases? What held you back until that point? Because I think that other founders will learn through your experience and self-recognize that maybe there's self-talk internally that they're saying to themselves, wow, this isn't for me. I'm a technical founder of a software company. I'm better spent engineering code. But I don't think that so many founders understand that no matter what, you are selling all day, every day to investors, to customers, to prospects, to future talent acquisition, to current employees to ride the elevator up and down every Friday and come into the office every week. You're always selling. So what was holding you back to getting onto it later?
Yeah, Jamie, I thought it was a total waste of time. I said, how are people spending time? How do they have time to do this? And the first aha moment I had was back when I started. I have what's called the Knakal Map Room. You can go online, go to bobknakal.com, and you can see all about the Knakal Map Room. But it was an initiative that I undertook during the pandemic to create basically a 24-foot long and 10-foot wide map of Manhattan that has identified on it every development site that was under construction, every potential development site, a whole multitude of market data on this map. And I had taken a photo of me standing on this big map. And back in the early days, I was doing my daily posts at about 10 o'clock in the morning. Today I do all my posting at 7:30 in the morning. But back then it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. And this was a cool picture. This is about 2 or 3 weeks into the initiative in January of 23. And I post a picture at 10 o'clock. And by 11 o'clock, I had 8 colleagues in the JLL offices say to me, "Hey, BK, we saw that picture. That was such a cool picture. How did you do that? Blah, 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 blah." And 2 things occurred to me. One thing was, wow, a lot of people are on social media. I can't believe 8 people saw this between 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. The second thing that occurred to me is, what the heck are people doing looking at social media at 10 to 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning? And so it occurred to me, this must not just be a JLL thing. I'm sure that everybody is doing this. and it really is remarkable. I think I have about 60,000 followers on LinkedIn now. We're closing in on 40,000 on X. And the business opportunities that are coming from it are remarkable. And I just, people ask me why I got on social media. It really was just succumbing to peer pressure. Most of my friends, rightly or wrongly, are in the real estate business. We spend so much time doing our business and socializing and networking that you end up becoming friends with a lot of people who were clients. But we're always talking about real estate, and I would always share deal stories or interesting things that happened on transactions or with people. And folks are saying, "Hey, BK, you gotta get on social media and share these with the world." And so I figured I'd give it a try for 3 months. I will tell you that it has been very, very transformative in both the notoriety that I have in the local market, the notoriety I've been getting around the country, and it's turning into very, very tangible business opportunities that I can directly tie back to social media. And I will tell you that most of the time when you're doing market presence activities, you're going to networking events, you're speaking in public, it's very difficult to connect dots and say, well, I got this piece of business because Joe met me at that event that I went to a couple of months ago. Very, very tough to do that. It's kind of I think market presence is kind of a mosaic of a bunch of different things that you do to become known. And you sometimes don't know why people called you or see a direct link. But within the past 3 months, there have been 3 transactions that definitively I have gotten because people became aware of me on social media. And that's almost $100 million worth of business that I've gotten from this. So I'm a huge, huge proponent. I was the biggest naysayer in the world 3 years ago. Today, I think that if you're not active on social media, you're missing a tremendous opportunity to increase your book of business and the folks that you're doing business with.
And for the audience listening, I want you to think of the science for the business you're in, whether you're in software, professional services like myself, manufacturing. What Bob did, think of his total addressable market. The total addressable market is 22,000 pieces of land with buildings on top of them in the Manhattan region. Then you have your SAM, which is the addressable market. And look at some of the modeling that he did. Well, there is only a percentage of them that are willing to sell and will sell over an average of a 38-year horizon. And then your SOM is what percentage will I actually try to win each year, because he has to break that down over a 38-year horizon, competing against the myriad of 1,000 brokers on the Manhattan Island. Who's going to get what percentage slice of pie? And even still, he can't get to know 22,000 people, so they need to get to know him. Bob, if you were to leave us with one nugget of gold, so all the things that you've done on social. I love the map, by the way. When I was in commercial real estate, we used to do building walks. We would go in. So before there was this software tool called, I can't remember the name of this one software. It was like Atlas or Trello or something like this, where eventually in the later years of my commercial real estate space, there was a database of every building in Toronto and the floor plans and when the leases were coming due. But when I first started, I would walk into buildings, collect the business cards of each tenant of every floor, and try to talk to reception about when they think their lease was due. And I tried to keep hand notes of it. Anyways, I love the visualization of your total addressable market. If you were to give one nugget of gold for those that are neophytes or haven't ramped to 40,000 or 60,000 on LinkedIn and X, where would you get started?
Jamie, I think my advice would be just get started, try it. And it's remarkable the traction that you can get. Just do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
Just do it. Fantastic. How do people get a hold of you when they want to expand office space or do investments in New York? They come talk to you. How do people get a hold of you?
And you go to bobknakal.com, go to bkrea.com, follow me on social media, DM me, email me at bk@bkrea.com, or call me on my cell, 917-509-9501. Always would love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Thanks for being on Outsource to Profits.
Jamie, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.